Hi, I'm doing a video here that I've wanted to do for many, many years. And I've always thought it was interesting because even as a man, I had thought that even before I was a father, this was going to become an issue. I remember back in 2014, right when my boys were becoming of that age, 11, 12, 13, where there's curiosity about things coming up, I came across some YouTubes and some information on how to tackle and properly understand pornography and how to beat it. So I wanted to name this video How to Beat Pornography in 4 Easy Steps. And notice I put easy in parentheses because they may not be easy, but these are effective. These you can do. I want to go through all of this and show you my thought processes. And I've shown this to my 3 boys. I utilize this myself. Pornography has come and it grabs everybody. And it's grabbing men, it's grabbing women. Women may not go after visuals so much, but they will go after the Harlequin romances. There are some deeper erotic smut books that are out there. You had 50 Shades of Grey, sold billions of copies, and not just to the unsaved women. Other women are reading this. I think women and men are not fighting this correctly because they don't understand it correctly. And like I said, I've told this to my sons and to my daughters. And I know that it bears good fruit. Let me go through my process real quick. In 2014, I saw some information about how to deal with it from a physiological level, about understanding what it is and how it affects your brain. Sometimes you just can't do just don't. Just don't. Just don't. It seems like every pulpit I've ever heard on this issue just says just don't. Well, this is probably the hardest drug for us to get past because of how it affects our body and our mind. Once we understand how it affects the body and our mind, then we have a chance of working strategies. But let me take this a little slower so it will make more sense. We have, of course, the male and female. You have testosterone-based life forms. You have estrogen-based life forms created by God. So you have prioritized, you have major hormones under them. Then under them are dozens of hormones that we're still figuring out. Science is still wondering about some of them down here. These are 4 major players. There may be about 2 or 3 other majors. But these have to go with how we process our emotional feelings, why we choose, why we like certain things. And when I go through this, I think you'll see and understand what I'm saying. And so number 1 is dopamine. Most people understand dopamine. Dopamine is that excitement, that I want to see something new. I want to do something new. I want excitement in my life. I want to have goals. Let me tell you, God created this, by the way. This is not sin. God created this. There are several scriptures. There's one of them in Psalms that I'm thought of that he says, I wanted you to have pleasures evermore. He created us to have pleasure. He created us to understand, to enjoy the sunrise, the sunset, the taste of an apple, a good meal, pleasant conversation, having a wife for the husband, having a husband for the wife. Pleasure, our God is about pleasure. He was hoping that through establishing himself in Jerusalem that he would create a more pleasant and pleasurable place for the children of Israel. He even called it a land of milk and honey, a pleasant place to live. You follow him and you'll be safe, secure, you'll be pleasant. But they didn't want that. They wanted sin, and sin created problems. But the biggest problem here is dopamine. It can be a problem. Serotonin is the drug that brings you down, and it's a baseline, and it's a good thing. You don't always want to be burning up here. You go have a good time, you go on a vacation, you go watch a good movie, you have a good meal, you have a good time with your wife, going to the park or whatever. Then you come home and go, that was a good time. I enjoyed that. And you have that depressed time, which is good. We're not talking about depressing. You just bring yourself back to baseline so that later on you can go back up and enjoy something else. It's good to have serotonin. If not, we would burn out. Imagine if you put, if you stuck your gas pedal on your car at 40 miles an hour all the time. You've got to get off the gas. You have to shut it down. There needs to be a point of rest, and that's what serotonin does. Prolactin is the connection drug. This is so, that was a good time. I want to do that again. That was a good movie. I want to watch that or something similar. I want to hear some new music. Oh, I want to experience. I want to go to this city. I want to go off to the plains. I want to go to the beach. You know, I met a new friend today. I have a new job today. Anything that's new that we like, we prolactin is what we use. Oxytocin is the love drug. And it's not the love drug and you're thinking of, something with the 60s where you take a drug and you fall in love with somebody. But this is where we make the connection. We can make a connection here, but this is also we love it. We choose what we focus on. These things choose love for us. If you want to love something, practice it a lot and you'll create this love, and this becomes a very powerful engine. You can do this with godly things. You start reading your Bible more and you start getting dopamine from what you're learning. Then you get serotonin when you put it down and meditate on what God did. Prolactin is, wow, I didn't see that before. And oxytocin is, I really love this book. See how it can work for you. This can work for church. It can work for your relationships. This can work for your marriage. But also, unfortunately, this can go for negative things. You can do this to love alcohol. You can do this to love cigarettes. You can do this to love, of course, pornography. You can do this to love depression. You can do this to love anxiety. You can do this to love fear. You can do this to love and justify anger. This is also a justifier. I'm feeling, therefore it must be real. It's cyclic logic. We train ourselves to feel something, then we turn around and say, well, my feelings must be real. I hate to say it, but this can lead to false love. Some man sees a woman and she's beautiful and he hangs around with her and she creates, and there's pleasantness in that, but is that love? What is her philosophy? What is her religion? Hormones. And again, you have the pituitary in the back. My statement is that if I would say to the Christian, we say, well, I've given my heart to Christ. I've given my heart to Christ. Well, what does that mean? This is a pump. It means the core. Now, in the Greek time, your core was down in the bowels. That's what they would say. I love you with my bowels. This was the core. In truth, your core is actually your frontal lobe and your pleasure center. This is the core of who you are. And when I think of these four guys, they are in the pleasure center in the middle, but they don't make decisions. They do what the frontal lobe tells them to do. Now, the more you watch something, the more you do something, the more these guys will start kicking into high gear on that. We start looking at pornography because we start looking at it continually. We're training our pleasure centers to find pleasure from here. And so this creates the problem. Now you're starting to see what the problem is. We have sexual desire. Usually pornography comes in when men and women hit puberty and there's this interest and stuff. And unfortunately it's there. And it creates this whole dopamine, serotonin, prolactin, and oxytocin on this. And we get all excited. It gives us the greatest boost. I had a pastor friend who says he used to do drugs. And when he did drugs, at the very beginning, he would get this high. So it'd take this much drugs to get him this high. Then as he kept using, all of a sudden it started leveling off. He wouldn't get up here anymore. So he'd have to push it. And then all of a sudden it took more drugs to even try to get anywhere. And then all of a sudden you find yourself passing yourself. This is what becomes an addict. You can't get back up to the height, but you believe you can get up there. So you keep pushing that up and it goes down to here. This is how pornography works. This is how most things work on the brain. Is that you'll get this super dopamine kick way up here off of just seeing one magazine or seeing a film or seeing a DVD or whatever, and you'll get such a hit. But as you watch, your brain will start getting bored with it. And this will create a problem. Then you'll need more and more. Then you'll need more exciting. You'll need different. You'll want to expand. You'll want to go down into looking at other things. And that creates the problem. It's how your mind works, and pornography is playing against you. It's using your mind against you because you get this great big hit, and now you get bored. Now you have to give it another hit by seeing something new. Usually something new is usually something bad. Why do you think there's so much free pornography? Because it wants to addict you here, and you'll get bored, and then you'll go into stuff that's paid, or you'll go into stuff that's illegal, immoral, or very damaging. When I saw this guy who did this video a few years ago, one thing he went through was the dangers of pornography. He went through and talked about how it does lead to child pornography. It does. You'll be watching, and this is what he was saying, and I've seen this in other men's life, and it's dangerous. You'll see men and women, you'll get bored. Okay, well, we're going to go different races. They get bored. Then, unfortunately, you start looking at multiple partners. Then they get bored. Then you start scooping into other things, and you watch it. You're going to go down that slope. Pretty soon, you're going to hit something here that you didn't want to hit. Most everyone heads down here. Most everyone who's on this train will go down to here. Oh, I would never do it. I would never look at that. You wouldn't? Well, maybe you won't this year. Maybe you won't next year. A lot of people who were trafficking in that form of pornography weren't doing it 5 years, 10 years ago. Think about it. I mean, why do you watch new movies? Why don't you just watch all your old movies? Why do you listen to new music? Why don't you just listen to all your old music? Why do you want to go to a new city? Just stay in your own little town. Why do you want new? Because of this. And this isn't bad. In fact, you can work this for you, like I've already stated, with the Bible and with the church. Force yourself to get into a habit. Yes, I say force yourself. Once you become a Christian, I've heard erroneous pastors, I'm going to call it erroneous, will state that you'll just have this love for God. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't. Maybe you need to develop it. I should go to church, and I should get involved, and I should. We hate to say that we need to do that, but we're coming from a place of sin to a place of righteousness, and you're going to have to put some effort into the game. If you want to be a good husband, you're going to have a lot of shoulds that you need to do. If you want to be a good wife, there's a lot of shoulds that you need to do. And so we need to work this out. The danger is you will slide down the slope and into something you don't want. Another thing that is a problem, and we've learned this from the movie Sound of Freedom, is there is such a strong connection between pornography and trafficking, and they're so interwoven. You don't know if that person you're seeing is doing that for pay. You don't know if they're even doing it because they want to. Most sex trafficking happens where the person says, you sell it or you don't eat. You sell it or I'll go home and I'll get your little brother, I'll get your little sister. There's always a strong manipulative to make these people participate. And once they get in there, sex trafficking, like I've said before, do you think they ever go home? Do you think the person goes, okay, you've been here for 3 years, you can go now, we'll get somebody else? Unfortunately, they either get into the machine and become a part of the machine, or they probably die. People are sold into trafficking. And when you participate, even with a little bit, it's like you're giving $1 to a sex trafficker. You're giving 50 cents for them to keep doing what they're doing. Even though it's free, they see the data usage. They see what you're looking at, and they go and create these videos based on what you see. That's another thing, is that there's a connection, these algorithms that look and see what people traffic and want to see. And then they'll take that information and tell it to the pornographers, who will go and then create the videos with the sex traffic victims. And then it's a cycle, and it's being led by the person watching pornography. This is a good reason to stop. ED, erectile dysfunction, very high among men, because we're burning out our dopamine for our wives. We're burning out our dopamine and all of this for just regular, pleasant, monogamous sex. All of a sudden, you want something that's, in the lights. You want something that's on the screen. You're not responding to the woman in front of you. And for women also. You like the books and you like the imagery, but he's not doing those things. He's not touching you that way. He's not the Galahad in the book who comes, wisping in on a horse or something and takes you away from the beach and you go off where no one can see you. This isn't happening. And you get lost in that. So the biggest problem is women have a form of ED. They don't have the erection to lose, but the loss of sexual libido, the loss of interest, I call it loss of desire. Those are three big reasons to fight this with everything you've got. It's destructive to the family. It's destructive to marriage. I mean, I shouldn't have to go too far down that road. We want to use this for us. What I've said is everything in your body is on your side. If you cut yourself, your body wants to heal. If you're sick, your body wants to lie down. If you hurt yourself, your body wants to send endorphins. It wants to feel better. You know, the only thing that's not on your side is your free will and your frontal lobe. Your frontal lobe where you make decisions. And that's why I start with this process. You know, this process begins in an area where you make strong decisions. And that's the key to this. You have to make decisions, but it's going to hurt. See, the interesting thing about this is these guys are amoral. They're not immoral. They're amoral. They don't care. They'll do whatever the frontal lobe sends the messages. If you start, teaching your hormones, your pleasure center, to only respond to pixelated pictures or videos or your phone or whatever, then okay, you're going to start responding to that. And so you're training that. But when you try to stop, your body thinks you're doing something wrong. Your body thinks, oh my gosh, no, you're not doing this. We're so trapped in this mode. This is how you're supposed to be responding. It doesn't want to change. It wants to stay where it's at. This is a form of mental, physiological, emotional homeostasis. But it's focused on the wrong thing. And you can erase this and put anxiety, anger, depression, weight. If you're overweight, you can use the same process to lose weight. You can use the same process to get away from anger or depression. It works for anything. But let me go over the 4 easy steps real quick and I'll get to the conclusion. You have to learn to bear pain, the mental pain. When I started doing this, I was reminded of the scripture where it says Jesus was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. And I thought, I don't want to be acquainted with grief. I don't want grief anywhere near me. I don't want to be even Facebook friends with grief. I don't want grief. That extreme loss. That's what grief is. Grief is an extreme loss. But he did that. So I thought, okay, can I bear pain? The mental pain of telling myself, no. No. But it doesn't stop there. You have to put in workable strategies. So when you say no, you go do something else. I learned this by listening to a guy who said when he got tempted, he would go off and ride his bike. When he got tempted, he would go off into another room. When he got tempted, he would turn his computer completely off. One guy said that he would get on the computer, get done everything he needed to do, and then he would step away because he would get tempted. It's what I call the siren song. Most men can hear it in the back of their mind. They hear it kind of, we haven't seen this in a while. We haven't seen that. Or you'll see a small image. Oh, and let it come in fruition up here, and then it hits the top, and then you're like, you're doing it. You killed the thought. What the Bible calls this, what the Christians call it, is taking thoughts captive. But you have to have a strategy. Like I said, one guy would get off the computer as soon as he held back. Another guy would make sure it was in a room where all of his kids were in. He knew also that it was a one family computer. If you get on there, you probably get malware or spyware, or you get all this stuff, and your family will know. Imagine your 5-year-old or 6-year-old getting on there to just play with a kid's game, and something pops up that they see, and it caused because you were trafficking where you shouldn't. I know a man who had his wife had the code to get into the back part of your phone for updating apps. So he couldn't even update his apps or add an app without asking his wife to put the code in. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having brothers work together in strategies. I knew one guy who called a friend of his and said, hey, I'm getting tempted. He goes, well, you want me to come over? We can watch a movie. I'll get a pizza or we'll have some popcorn. How can I help you? And he goes, no, I think I'll be fine. I just needed someone else to know. I needed you to know. Well, I know, man. I'm there for you. Call me back, and like I said, I'll be right over. See, that's helpful. Working strategies, and it's going to be different for whatever your trigger is. The third one is to forgive your relapses. You're going to find weaknesses in you. You're going to find weaknesses in you, and those are good. It's good when you find a weakness because then you know where to fix the wall. You find out, you know what? I gave in. So I'm going to make sure in the mornings I don't touch it. I'll just do my emails or whatever, that I'm off. Oh, I have a problem with always, bringing up my browser app. Well, I'm going to lock down my phone and ask my wife to make up a 4-digit code. I'm going to have a friend, an accountability partner. I need to stay off it late at night. If everyone's asleep and you're in a room by yourself with your computer or with your phone, you have to work your strategies, forgive your relapses, and work back up here. Number 4 is refocus on the focal point. Why are you doing this? Why? And again, pick the one that's strongest for you. I picked the trafficking. I don't want to be a part of these men who are supporting sex trafficking with their data. Think about it. Oh, well, it's free. It's not free. Every time you look up something, you're supporting that, and they're grabbing some child by the hand, ripping them out of their bedroom, and taking them off forever. And you're supporting that. Some men don't want to lose their manhood. Well, you will. You'll lose that part of you. You'll lose desire. Some men will find themselves, we have these people called MAPS, which I don't understand, but we do this. Minor attracted people, they are created by pornography. Pornography creates MAPS because they get bored with adult women. And these pornographers will even dress up 25-year-olds to look like 14-year-olds just to draw you in, just to create the scenario of a schoolyard or the older man and the cheerleader or the older man and the tennis girl or whatever. That's a hook. That is a hook. Be smart. But yeah, once you keep working this, refocus on your focal point, you go back up here bare paying, you work your strategies, you forgive yourself for relapsing and fix, then you focus this and you do this for the rest of your life. Now, I had a guy say that when you do this for pornography, you might as well do it for weight loss, you might as well do it for anger, you might as well do it for depression, you might as well throw all of it into the same mix and start working the same process. Just do it all at one time. There's 2 words in the Bible that talk about this, and it's part of the spiritual gift. It's called self-control. Now, non-believers have self-control to a degree. But sooner or later, sin will have its way. To the believer, we have the power to access godly self-control to where, we might relapse. For the Christian, it's not that you relapsed. It's that you stopped. You stopped trying. You got off the wheel. You saw that this wasn't getting anywhere. In the Old Testament, there is something I think it's Isaiah. Can't remember exactly where it says that you find that following me is profitless. I know it's one of the minor prophets. It might be Malachi or Zechariah. I just got finished reading those. But you find that following me is profitless. The idea that here we are, we're going to give up on this. Well, if you stop, then you'll probably fall completely back into your old habits sooner or later. Because of the sin nature, because of humanity, because of our mind. This will always be there for that if you want it. It'll always be there for anger or depression if you want it. It'll always be there for alcohol or cigarettes or any of those destructive illegal substances that people use like cocaine or heroin or all of that. It'll always be there. This is the process for beating pornography in 4 easy steps. It's going to hurt. It's going to take daily working. You're going to learn about yourself. You're going to find out how strong you are. And then you'll find out how weak you are. And you'll keep working the strategies. In conclusion, I do want to say All bodybuilders began as skinny guys. Every bodybuilder began as a skinny guy. But because he worked the weights, because he worked the system, because he didn't give up, he grew strength. And there are times when they fail. There's times when, you're lifting 50 pounds and you drop it. But you keep lifting it, and then you get up to 75 pounds. Then you drop that. Then you keep lifting. Then you get up to 100 pounds. Then you drop that. But guess what? You keep dropping, but you also keep getting stronger. So that's what I want to say with this to young men especially, but this also works for young women. It works for everybody. You have these hormones. Work for you. Find pleasant things to do. There was a fellow who found himself, he was one of these guys in his basement. Girls didn't like him. He was just on his computer all day long, watching pornography and just playing games and wrecking his life. This was a non-Christian. He decided he was tired of it. He bought a bicycle and a helmet and some pads, would get out of the house. All of a sudden, he pulls down 30 pounds. All of a sudden, he's looking better. His skin is better. He's getting more sunlight. He's getting more clean air. All of a sudden, he's meeting people. He actually gets a girlfriend and creates a relationship. All because he worked this plan. This just doesn't work for Christians, although it works better for us because we have the spiritual gift of self-control and patience, perseverance. But even for non-Christians saw the value of this. And it even took a non-Christian to say, I don't want the dangers of pornography. I don't want to get into child looking at. I don't want to get into dealing with trafficking. I don't want to lose my manness simply because I can't stop this. So I know this is a longer video. I've been told my videos get a little long. But this is the one I've wanted to put out for my kids and for everyone's kids and for everyone. This works, but it hurts. And if you will bear pain, then you can have gain. I kind of made that up on the spot. But you have to bear the pain. This is usually where Christians fail in everything. We think we should have painless Christianity. Nothing should ever hurt. It should always be a cushion. And actually, it's just the opposite. Only salvation for us is free. Everything else has a price.